What's up, everybody? This is Taryn with TarynTheHype. This is another TarynTheHype podcast, doing a live review for you with Tom Clancy's The Division. I'm here with my good friend Matt.
What's up, everybody?
Thanks for coming, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Of course. All right, guys, we're going to attack Tom Clancy's The Division. This is your review for all the hype fans out there, and also your review for all the unhype fans out there. People who don't know about it, people who do. So this is your chance to choose your review with TarynTheHype. Now, this is going to be available for anybody, but if you always want to support us with TarynTheHype, you can support us on Patreon, which is patreon.com/TarynTheHype. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on Twitter at TarynTheHype. Same with Gmail. You can always ask us your questions or reviews that you want to have seen at TarynTheHype@gmail.com. Well, let's get started.
Let's do it.
All right, so Tom Clancy's The Division.
Yeah, that's a game that came out this year.
It came out actually on March 8th of this year, so it's been out for a few months now. It was developed by Massive Entertainment and created by Ubisoft, so published by Ubisoft. All right. Now, what Tom Clancy's The Division is, it's a third-party shooter where you can actually take the role of a sleeper Division agent. As you are activated to help save the city and learn how the outbreak started, the Division is set in a major area of Manhattan, New York. A type of smallpox virus breaks out on Black Friday, the busiest day of the year in New York City, and your team is the last hope to go and find out what happened, get to the bottom of it, and save as many people as you can.
That's right. Time to restore order.
It's a nice little breakdown of the game. I mean, it's a nice little...
Yeah, that's a good synopsis.
It's a nice little concept. Thank you. I wrote it myself.
Yeah, it was very well written.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
It's actually... It's a nice little concept. I think the game was a great idea. I mean, it sounded great on paper.
For sure.
Some of the things, the reasons why... We'll just jump right into reasons why you should have been hyped about it. On Steam, it got a 6 out of 10. So that's one of the things that some people are saying about it. On Metacritic, it got 80% from the actual reviewer scores, and from the users, it's got a 7.0. Now, we're going to give you the TarynTheHype review score coming up pretty soon, but we're going to tell you some things about it first. First, we're going to do is the unhyped opinion. Now, with this... You don't know about anything about the game. It actually was developed and placed at E3 a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So we've known about this game for about 3 to 4 years now.
Yeah, it's been kicking around for a number of years in different formats.
We saw some live gameplay, and when we saw that, I don't know about you, but I was blown away.
Yeah, It was phenomenal.
It looked amazing. The environments were beautiful and crisp. Everything that you shot at with your gun interacted with. It was a car window, or if it was a dent on a wall, no matter what it was, it interacted with what you interacted with.
The level of interaction with everything, the way your character moved through the world, the way the world looked with the weather effects, it was all far beyond what I would have been expecting to play in a game.
Exactly. And that's one of the reasons why everyone got so hyped up. They saw it like, well, this could be just another shooter. We know that shooters can look pretty. So as the gameplay went through in the trailer, we saw how detailed the customization can be, how easy it is to load from one level to another, how easy it is to group up with your friends. And the more we watched, we kind of just got deeper and deeper into, wow, this looks exactly what I wanted. This has been what I've been waiting for forever.
Right.
And so a lot of fans out there started getting hyped up, like, wow, this can be amazing. This could be my end-all game. This could be everything I want. And then
hype train rolled in.
Exactly. It started getting more and more and more people who got asked questions about it. It just blew up on the internet. Now, coming around to this, they have another show about a year later after, it's gotten some steam. It kind of goes silent for a little bit. The next trailer shows the Dead Zone, or the Dark Zone, which is more of a PvP-focused area where people can actually battle each other. The multiplayer kicks in. You can make more teams. You can kind of loot guns and equipment from other players by killing them or working with them. It's just a full war zone, and that got people even more hyped up. So the train rolled in again, as you would say.
Yeah.
What was your first impression when you saw the Dark Zone?
The Dark Zone was pretty cool. I'm usually not very big into PvP gameplay necessarily. There are some games that I get pretty into. But I thought that was a really interesting concept, that it's PvPvE, so player versus player and player versus environment in one area, because there's still NPC characters roaming around that you're going and killing and looting. But the fact that there's other players who can come up and player kill you, I thought was really cool. And the fact that it was like just separated into this one area, so it's not the whole world that's a PvP area, it's just a one area.
Right.
I thought was really cool, because like playing other MMO games like World of Warcraft or some of the other gameplay where you can be on servers where players can come up and kill you just randomly throughout the world. or DC Universe Online is another good example where people just like to camp out in lower
And
level
spawn zones,
places when they're higher level and just wreck shop on you. So I like the fact that it was just kept to one area as opposed to the entire game world, but the option was there to go and explore it. I thought that was a really smart idea.
Right. I think that people definitely started jumping on board and putting more pre-orders down once they saw how the multiplayer is going to play just besides co-op. It's actually going to be competitive. There's also going to be ways to, get better loot, which kind of pushes you to do better by playing in that dark zone. The entire gameplay mechanic was really well balanced between what missions it offered you, what type of gameplay it was from the gun mechanics, and also the shooting mechanics, the skill mechanics. It was all really well done from what you're seeing in these trailers. Now, of course, with these trailers, they were pre-planned out, but I mean that's expected with a lot of trailers like this. Some of the great things becoming someone who's not really hyped about a game or didn't know what the Division was, if you went and picked it up today at GameStop, I don't think you would be let down. I think that this would be a great game for you. It actually guides you through the gameplay, shows you what to do. Hey, if you're level 1, it's okay. This is where you should go. There's a GPS system that shows you exactly where each story mission's at or each side quest you have to do. You can have a lot of options available for customization, so you can represent yourself the way you want to represent. And also, there's hardly any load times at all, so it's easy to find a group who's going to play with you and stay with you through multiple missions. Or if you just want to play it solo, it's easy for that too. So I think it's actually definitely a great game for someone who didn't know anything about it going into it, had no expectations at all.
Completely agree. I think playing through the story, going level 1 to 30, great experience. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We both platinumed the game.
Yeah.
Which we don't platinum that many games.
Well, I don't.
Well, I mean, it comes and goes. But massive games like that, I typically don't plan on platinuming.
Especially open world games. They're huge games, and with collectibles and everything, multiplayer trophies scoring, it's definitely was a challenge, but it wasn't, on the I want to cut my wrist kind of difficult. So.
Yeah, it was worth experiencing, and we both had fun with our time.
Now, that was the only thing. I want to go and move on to the cons for the Division when it comes to a person who's not hyped about this game, person who didn't know about it. Some of the bad parts is that the story can be a little scarce. There were a few missions, but the thing that we mentioned earlier is that the missions were so well done, and they're diverse, and they're entertaining to play. You don't mind playing through them again. But the fact that there weren't that many to choose from in the beginning definitely was a kind of a downfall for me. When it came to the launch day, if you went and picked it up then, there were quite a bit of issues with the game that made it, kind of pulling you out of the experience. So, I mean, if you were...
Like server errors, not able to log in, too many people in starting areas, so you couldn't get to where you needed to go to turn in quests, that kind of stuff.
The good thing is they were on top of it pretty fast in the beginning. They found an issue, they were able to fix it. And another negative thing was that the grind. So, like I said before, with the maps, I mean, it took a while getting from level 10 to level 20, as long as you're okay playing multiple of the same maps over and over again to get to that next story mission. I mean, it's a great game for you. The benefit is you're actually going to get a lot of guns and ammo out of that experience in the meantime. Yeah,
it plays really well. It plays like you would expect a Ubisoft third-person shooter to play. The guns feel really good. The skills and mechanics work really well.
Now, with all that being said, I've enjoyed the Division. You said you enjoyed it as well. We platinumed it.
Yep.
So for those of you out there who've never heard of it, never played it, didn't know the hype, didn't see the videos before, the TarynTheHype review I would give it for unhyped members out there is an 8.5.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fine.
Reason being because of all the pros, it's beautiful, it plays good, the mechanics are good, there's a lot to do, it's no load screens, easy to play, guide you through the missions. It's a great game for someone who doesn't know about the series a lot.
Yeah. It's definitely worth checking out. I would put it up there on the list. Even if you don't play with other people, if you just want to play it solo, it's still definitely doable. A little more challenging that way, but again, there's nothing wrong with playing it solo. It's easy enough to group up with people if you want for help with missions, so you don't have to be afraid of not having friends, because it's pretty easy to get paired up with other people with matchmaking.
I've actually made quite a few friends from my friends list who I just met in the Division, and we started playing other games together too.
Nice.
So
I did not make any friends in the Division.
I lost friends playing no. So, all right, moving on to our go ahead and hype review. Now this is gonna be a little bit longer for you guys.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to give you a quick breakdown for those who haven't played it or didn't know about it. But now for us who were on that train, who hit every single stop on that train. Those of us who've been hyped up since that first trailer at E3. This is your time to shine. Going into the hype version, have quite a few pros and quite a few cons.
Yeah.
With the pros, I'm going to say that the customization control was great. I think the fact that you could dispose of anything you didn't want, you could compare stats very easily, you could control stats for if you wanted to focus on DPS or if you wanted to focus on armor or health, no matter what it was, you had full control. It wasn't hard to do, and there were a lot of options available to you.
I liked it from a visual standpoint that the gear looked substantially different depending on what type of gear you were equipping on yourself. And the fact that on top of your gear customization, that you could control your clothing options also, which were just a completely visual thing to change, but it would still change the way your person looked.
Right.
So you could still maintain a more unique look and a more personal touch in the world with all the other people who are going after the same gear, basically.
That's true. I mean,
which I greatly appreciate any game that lets me customize like that.
Now, especially in the dark zone, like you can see somebody carrying something. That was amazing. That's something that not very many other games have done before, where if they have a package and you haven't seen it yet, or you know that they have a package because it's on the back of their backpack.
That was very
It's
cool.
not like an icon above their head. It's not like you have to like track them down on your map. It's the fact that there's an indicator. You can visually see when they're running past you that they have something that could be good.
Yellow satchel on the back of their backpack.
And there's not a whole lot of yellow in the game, so it's definitely very obvious.
It stands out.
Another thing that I really enjoyed about the game was, as you mentioned, we platinumed the games. And we played the game a lot. We both put a few days of hours into it.
Yeah.
Something quite a bit. The replay value.
Yeah, it definitely replayed very well.
I think that some of the best missions that I had was, the ones when we played them the first time together were great. But I think when we knew what to do, but we stepped up that difficulty where we have to get this done. I know what we have to do, but we have to fight for it. Those were some of the better experiences in there for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And just challenging ourselves, pushing ourselves harder on the challenges. And when you get to that point where you're shaving seconds off of your runtime because you're just getting that much more familiar with it, you figure out better lines to get through everywhere. And
you can kind of stand alone too. Like I could say, hey, you go get that check mark because the next one's going to be over here. I'll meet you there, sort of thing. We had a lot of those moments too.
Yeah, that was good times for sure.
Especially in that mall when everything's on fire.
Dude, we so many times in that mall.
I think we could do that mission in
the mall
less
and the
than
Lincoln
10 minutes.
Tunnel are like the two. Yeah.
Just dominate it. Again, now here's some of the things where it kind of gets nitty gritty when it comes to being as hyped as it was in the first trailer.
Oh, hang on, one more second on the pro side for hype.
Oh, I'm still doing pros.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I'm going to kind of go back and forth now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Well,
all right, so this is what I was going to say, is that when it comes to, as I mentioned before, it's a beautiful city and a great environment. In the first trailer, everything interacts with you. That was something that kind of let me down when the game actually was announced, when the game was launched. There was a lot more interaction that was available, a lot of things that weren't included in the actual game when it shipped, that I felt like we were promised.
But you could close a door in the gameplay trailer, and you could do it in the game, and you got a trophy for it.
This is true.
There are so many open doors you could close on cars.
I don't know
That's
why,
not what you wanted?
I don't know why every single time I play the game, the cars don't move, but the doors reopen.
Yeah. I don't know. The glass comes back, too. I don't know who's fixing all this broken glass in New York. But
I get it as a game design perspective, but I think that I want to make up a story real fast that every single time that we leave the game, there are people who are being chased by somebody else, and they have to hide inside that car. And then once they're gone, they open the door and leave again. Just leave it open.
Born in a barn.
That's every person. Every person was born in a barn who lived in Manhattan. So that's my only synopsis I can think of.
Fair enough.
And besides that, I think that there's also a pro and a negative was the pacing. I think that
for sure.
It was, like I said, definitely a fun factor. It was fun replaying it. The difficulties made it more entertaining to get through that pacing. I was a little worried there for a few between, I think 14 to 17. Mm-hmm. But once I hit that point, it carried on itself again. Yeah. Carried on its way. Words on. Go ahead. Go on to the cons. Do you want me to list them, or do you want to go through what you have gripes with first?
Let's go through what you have first, and then I'll just add to it.
I'll
add to it. Don't worry.
No.
Well, before we get into just hard cons, let's do one more that's kind of a pro and a con. Pro, there were a ton of skills that you could equip yourself with, and some really good, interesting combinations you can come up with. But con, there were some that just became completely useless. Halfway through the game, partway through, by the end, you're just using basically 3 or 4 skills at any time.
I think that by the end, like once you're level 30, you knew what skill sets you were going to use, no matter what situation it was.
And they were universal. They weren't situational like they should have been.
Exactly. Well, I mean, even if you wanted to change them, like, hey, I'm going to be the tank, or hey, I'm going to be the supporter, you could either use the same skills you had, and just, it's how you use them, or you could change them, but you knew which ones you were going to change it to. Because of the tier structure, all the ones that were kind of opening the game became kind of a moot point.
Yeah.
So that was
a moot point? Like a cow's perspective?
Like it doesn't matter. Friends reference. Yes. Get it. Or get out.
Hardcore.
I mean, there was a lot of great things. I mean, they definitely deserve props as developers for getting the city to work the way it did. With those loading screens, with the transitions to the Dark Zone, with transitions to how your home base, I mean, your...
Base of operations?
Your boo.
No. Base
with your,
of operations.
So once you got your boo all up and running, everything worked out properly, and just the transition inside of it. I mean, the boo itself had tons of unlockables, tons of extra content that you didn't even know was there until you progressed to the end of the game. So... I mean, the content that they gave in the game was just amazing.
The world itself was really well done. Like you said, there's stuff in the base that, as you progress, your base grows bigger, more people show up in there. There's no real people in there. It's all virtual NPCs and stuff. But the amount of foot traffic that's going on around in there, the things that are showing up, like there's... If you go, all right, so you go in there, you have like your weapon vendors and your stuff that you do right over here. You go over here to your security wing and you make like the loop for collecting all your stuff. There's like whole areas that you have no reason to go to, but there's stuff going on. There's people loading boxes. There's civilians who are in need of medical attention. There's people hanging out watching movies over in one corner. So it's really cool, like, as you progress through and you're trying to save New York, you really feel like you're making a difference.
Yeah, I mean, people were starting to thank you more.
Yeah.
People were reaching out to you. You can hear, like, small comments from recorded audio, but, I mean, you definitely feel it. But that was one of also my negatives, too.
But you don't feel it anywhere else in the game.
Exactly. One of my biggest gripes, I think I've told you this multiple times, is the fact that we're in this entire city, New York. It's a big place, and we're here to help save it.
Yeah.
We're here to help. We're not here to be the main hero. We're not fucking Spider-Man. We're not the one guy to fix everything. You're supposed to go in there and you're like, I'm going to meet up with this group of friends. Oh, I'm going to see them on the streets. And you feel disconnected from that unless you're on a mission. Unless you're in the Dark Zone.
Unless you purposefully group up with people, you don't see a single person wandering the streets.
Exactly.
It's all solo instance.
You can only see the same NPCs about 3 sets. You'll see one people who are arguing over food. You'll see some people who are lost and asking you for something. You'll see the group of people who are getting attacked by thugs. Mm-hmm. That's all you'll ever see besides crows and dogs.
Right.
I mean, it's cool and all. I feel the interaction, but there is no interaction for the player. You feel driven into such a detailed world, but for not to have any lifeline there besides going to your base of operations and then having them bleep out of the screen once you go through the tent. Like, it kind of takes me out of that environment, takes me out of the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what the thing that kind of, grinded my gears, if you would want to say. Okay. I think that once you transition into the Dark Zone, or if there's a helicopter coming to pick up something from the Dark Zone, mm-hmm. you should see it going into the Dark Zone and leaving. If it gets shot down, or if something, explosion happens, I want to see that transition from world to world, that these worlds are really connected. Yeah. Now, I get that from a developer side of things. I mean, they're instance. They have to be, just so those servers can handle it. So.
But there's no reason that they couldn't have done that in the PvE world.
Exactly.
Because Destiny does that. Destiny has instance areas around the map where Guardians can find each other if they wanted, but it's not a guarantee that I would see you in this spot if we're not grouped up. But there's still other people running around the world doing stuff at the same time.
True, exactly. And that's even marked on the map as well, is the fact that it lays out areas on the map. It says, you're in this city, you're in this part of town, and they all have their different level brackets. I don't understand why, when you transition from one to another, it didn't give you that as an instance.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been really good.
Not even like a lot of people, like maybe 4 to 8 people. Like, that wouldn't have been that hard for the servers, especially with how the game runs now.
Right.
I think that way, like, when you go to a new instance, you're seeing new people or seeing people who are matching your level. You could group up with people in the streets instead of only at missions. Right. I think it just would have driven the nail into the ground.
Yeah, it definitely would have been a lot better from a player perspective. And just from feeling like you're actually doing something worthwhile in the world and not just, like you said, this solo warrior off to save the day.
Yeah, I mean, and also, like, when you come to your base of operations, the audio they record, it makes it seem like, oh, I'm glad you're back. Like, am I the only one here? Like, was there no one else helping me out there while I was out there? Like, it just, I wish that they recorded the audio for the story with better dialogue.
The dialogue was really rough, especially, what's the main character's name? Fei Lao? The main girl that you interact with?
I couldn't tell what it was.
She could have been a really cool character. I liked her personality. I did not like the way she really came across. I felt like she kind of... Well, I don't know. It was almost like they were trying too hard with that character, or they were trying too hard with the voice actor. I don't know. There was some disconnect there that I couldn't get into.
I think the problem, the disconnect that you're talking about, is that with Fei Lao is that she never developed as a character. So, I mean, the fact that, like, she gets, spoilers here for you, is that she gets injured very early in the game. She's also another...
After the opening mission.
Yeah. She gets, like, a bandage on her eye.
If you played the beta, you already knew that she had a bandage over her eye.
She gets injured in the beginning of the game. That's when you're level 1 and level 2, I mean, very early, and she goes back to the base and she starts giving you her tasks. At no point does she ever develop a character. She's giving you your mission, she's assigning you. That's all she ever does.
Yeah.
If you spend all this time playing the Division, you spend hours not to get to, like, level 30 and get all the gear that you need, she should develop as well as a character herself. That would bring you in. Or the people that you rescue in the very first mission to unlock those parts of the base, they don't develop either. They just give you kind of their rants and then the story's over. I think that maybe if, like, towards mission she healed, or, like, parts of her body healed, she's like, okay, maybe if there was a buddy system where we could choose one of the 3 or 4 to come help me, that would have, like, driven the game, like, wow, okay, I'm developing and they're developing too.
It would have made me care about those other characters that I don't remember anything about, because you go rescue them and then they exist somewhere in your base, but I don't really know where.
Exactly. They're just in the game. They exist now. That's it. They're more like a key to a lock. Like, I got them, now I unlocked this door to the base.
Yeah, it's exactly what they were.
If they actually introduce a buddy system, like, hey, if I actually bring him out with me on missions, I might have more access to technical stuff, because he opened the technical wing.
That would have been a really good idea, actually.
And she opened up the part to the medical wing. If I bring her out, she might find more victims, or have more people approach me. Like, there could have been so much more they could have done with those characters. That's why I felt like they were just kind of, I guess you're here and I'm done with you now.
Yeah, like you said, they're keys to a lock to progress.
They didn't run any stores. They didn't, like, nothing. So that was some other things that grind my gear. The last thing was when it comes to the Dark Zone. The Dark Zone became we played the beta. I mean, we were both in there.
Yeah.
My son played the beta as well. When we first played the beta for the Dark Zone, everyone was in there. Like, each zone was 20 people.
They were all high populated.
Between, like, 16 to 24 people in there. And there were NPCs in there. I mean, it was constant people running around. When the game launched, the Dark Zone was kind of barren. Yeah. I think it was only 12 people in one area, one instance.
Sounds right.
And, I mean, those maps were not small.
Right.
And then also the negative part was, in the beta, we only could cap at level 8. Right. In the full game, the main players could actually come down who were level 30 to the level 1 to 8 zone and just camp at where the extraction points are. That was not obviously something that was an overlook on the developer side of things. I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
But the fact that, like, they overlooked that, they didn't think about that, was a big negative detractor for me, because I felt like when I played this game, I wanted to play the story, but man, I can't wait to get to that Dark Zone. I can't wait to show my stuff. I can't wait to help people who are in need, or I can't wait to, fight people who want to attack me. I can't wait for this experience. And it became okay, this is a chore. Okay, I have to go in here to get the trophies. Okay, I have to go in here if I want to get better loot, instead of an experience I wanted to do. And that was one of the biggest pulls I had for the game, which was disappointing.
Yeah. So I'd say my biggest disappointment for the Dark Zone was just how broken and unbalanced it felt as a single player, or even, like, with a group of a couple people. It didn't seem like going rogue had any real value, other than being kind of a jerk and going and stealing their stuff.
Yeah, there's no bonus for going in rogue.
Like,
and people knew that. The community was really smart.
And like, it was a cool idea of like having this rogue system, and then like, in theory, people would come together to go hunt down that rogue agent. Mm-hmm. But that didn't happen. Yeah. Because the rogues were generally the higher level people with the better gear.
Exactly.
And no one was going to be able to take them down. And then they could just go run off and hide somewhere until they could basically just like strike again. So it just became really obnoxious. It got to the point where I was actively avoiding everybody in a dark zone.
Well, they've added on some things later on to the game, but before we get to that, I think the review of this game, when it comes to the dark zone, I think that whenever you decide to go rogue, there should be a huge benefit for how long you were rogue for. Mm-hmm. But also another complicated factor is that when you're rogue, you were locked into that area. Because there's, rogue, dark zone 1, 2, 3, 4, the higher you go, the higher level.
Yeah.
Once you go rogue in an area, you cannot leave that area. So you have to fight your way out or wait for the timer run by hiding, but you cannot leave that area.
Yeah.
Because, it gives them way too much space for how few people are in there to actually even hold up a fight.
Yeah.
I kill, 2 to 3 other players. I'm in a group with 3 other people who are fighting for me. It's not really a challenge. Mm-hmm. I think if they had more people on the servers, if they had limits to what you could do when you were rogue, and they had more bonuses, it would have found a better middle ground. Yeah. So, overall, when it comes to the hype review, I think for everything we've seen from the first E3 trailer to what we got and to what's been given to it afterwards, I think that I would give it maybe a 7.5.
Ooh.
And that's being a little generous.
That's being...
Because, you got to realize, from a development point, they really delivered on what they promised. Except for, a few small gripes. The gameplay was there, the entertainment was there, the story was there. It just was that it wasn't as much as we wanted because it was originally promised to be so much more.
Yeah.
So it's just the scope went down, but it was all there.
So if we're counting just like the initial launch, the first week or two afterwards, I agree. I think it was a really nice accomplishment. They did a really good job with all this stuff. There's some things they definitely could have done better, but for the scope of their work, it was definitely admirable. I'd probably give it like a 7. If we're counting like the couple months that followed, if we're like reviewing it up until basically when we stopped playing, I'd probably say like a 5 for the way they handled everything.
Okay. I understand that completely. I get that. Let's jump into the aftermath.
Okay. So as it kind of time progressed and they're like, okay, here's a couple things. We know players are having bugs. There's all kinds of glitchy gameplay going on. There's some weapons that aren't balanced right. All right, so here's the hotfix. Oh, there's some stuff that messed up. There's other things that still need to get cleaned up. Here's another hotfix. Here's another hotfix. Here's another hotfix.
It became a bunch of duct tape on a bridge.
Way too much without like planning and without trying to test it.
Did you pause and think about my reference that I gave you?
No.
I thought you paused. I said too much duct tape for a bridge.
Oh, no. That's exactly what it is, though. It's like there's all right, so in the beginning, there was a few issues that players were having trouble with like guns that weren't reloading, with things that were a little bit too powerful. There were just little things, and it's like, okay, well, let's rush out a patch really quick to appease these people because there's tons of people who are trying to play, and we want to make them happy.
And with our new engine, look what we can do.
Good for you. Yeah, it felt like very much a show-off type of a thing. We can fix this right away. We don't have to wait a couple months like other games would have to.
And that's what I said. With our new engine, I can do this. I'm like,
that's awesome, but every time there was an update, and I kept playing and being like, okay, well, this got fixed, sure, but now 3 other things bugged out. Now all of a sudden I'm in a mission and I go through a door. There is no floor. None. Other players have a floor. That's
not what you want in a game.
I'm like, okay, well maybe I can go out there. Maybe it just didn't load the texture. That's fine. It's an online game. Whatever. Nope. Walk out. Fall for 2 minutes to get to the bottom of the world. You can't do anything while you're falling. You're just falling. Gone. And then you sit there for a while before it times you out to respawn. So it's like, that was the most frustrating thing of all time, because it didn't just happen once or twice. It happened multiple times every time I was playing.
Okay, given that fact, I've only had it happen to me once. You had it happen to yourself way more times.
So many times. It got to the point where my wife was sitting in the office with me while I was playing, and she's like, why do you play this game? Because you get so upset
so much.
And I'm like, I really like it when it works. When the game is running like it's supposed to, it's fun.
So take that
but
as you
there were so many issues that were either glitches in the game or because the developers were rushing out their patches, that they weren't being careful and testing everything thoroughly enough. I don't know what it was, but...
And I think that's the problem. The biggest problem that came after the launch of the Division is that Massive Entertainment is that they just kept running into problems with updates. They kept trying to fix bugs, and they just became stacked to where this bug was fixed, but these two other issues popped up.
Yeah.
One of those issues was fixed, but two more. It just, one step forward, two steps back, kept happening to them.
Yeah.
So much so to where that they actually had, pre-launch, they had a schedule for DLC and updates and what would be included. They've actually had to push those back multiple times over. And when you already have a community where Xbox gets this, and for an exclusive month until PlayStation gets this, and then having to push those back and then firmware updates, it became really crossed and messed up to where they didn't have their schedule down. So much to where I think right now, currently, we're almost 2 months behind schedule.
Yeah, there's an entire update that we paid for with the season pass that's not available to play.
Correct, and that should have been available to us almost a month ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's to the part where they've actually come and said this in a press conference where they've brought on a new team, an additional team with additional software to fix bugs. But as we mentioned last week in our podcast, episode 1, which you can hear on patreon.com/TarynTheHype and YouTube, but they brought on this new software, this new team to fix bugs, but they're having issues with that team and that software to fix bugs. So they're having bugs with the bug fixer.
Yeah.
And it's like, what happened, guys?
It's such a mess, and it doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, because you feel so bad for them, because they're not a huge team. Like,
right.
But, I mean, you made this promise, you made a delivery. You can't make a press announcement. You can't make a press release without being prepared, without delivering, without knowing your schedule and expectations.
Well, the thing, I can definitely appreciate that they're a smaller team. Massive is, despite the name, not a massive size team. But they're under the Ubisoft umbrella. There should have been plenty of funding to go into this. There should have been plenty of extra hands to help right the ship when it needed it. But now I feel like too much time has passed. I don't even know when these updates do come out.
Yeah,
I don't know that I'm even going to go back and play it. I felt like this game made me realize, don't buy a season pass on an opening game. Like, I am very cautious about doing that ever again. And this is coming from a guy who I was like, all right, this game seems really cool. All right, it's coming out. All right, I'll probably get the season pass because this content seems pretty cool. Mm-hmm. From now on, no. I am very skittish about that. There are very few developers that I'll be like, all right, I will pony up for your season pass up front. Fallout, I went and got that season pass before the price increased. And even though I haven't even played all that content,
you're getting your money's worth.
I got my money's worth.
And you can play it.
Right. And the whole game, I feel very burned by the Division.
Okay, so now let me ask you this: your pre-score, you said was about 7, and now post DLC and where it's at currently, you give about a 5 or
about
5?
A 5.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up a little bit. You kind of got your opinion now across. I got my opinion across about how I feel about the Division. You guys out there, I mean, I'll let you choose the review. Do you feel like it's a better game if you didn't know anything about it before this conversation, or if you feel like you now know about it and now you know what to expect? You choose if you were hyped about it or not.
Even with all that said, though, just going back to kind of like our views, our perspective on it from an unhyped review. If you're wanting to play a game that's a third-person action shooter, you want a cool story, you want to go pick up loot, you want to have some RPG elements and some skill trees, definitely go pick it up.
Yeah.
Don't let our hype review on this is more of like, if you really want to dig deep into it and play it for a long game.
The nitty-gritty, the things that you know about going into it, right, and what to expect going after it. So definitely, if you are a fan of games that are action games, if you're a fan of skill-based RPGs, if you're a fan of shooters, if you're a fan of exploration, this game
story-driven because it's a Tom Clancy name. It's a good, decent story.
Exactly,
it's a good, decent story. That sounds.
And if you're a fan of even multiplayer, this is definitely a great game for you, especially nowadays where it's a lower price. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're a person who's a fan of previous Tom Clancy games and you have a really high expectation for your shooters, or if you have a really high expectation for multiplayer and replay value, I mean, this might be a game you might want to wait for, or just let it sit until gets to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, let it kind of balance out, because it's still, even there's just announced today, there's a huge major update that's planned to come out sometime soon. They're starting to test it on a public test realm for PC players, but there are ridiculous amounts of changes that are coming and all kinds of item number squishes. I'm surprised that this much stuff is getting fixed this early in a game's life.
For holiday season this year, 2016, that gives the game almost 9 months being available on market.
Yeah.
With that, I mean, I think this is definitely a great Christmas gift for somebody who's, a big hype of Tom Clancy fans. But I mean, I would definitely let them know that, hey, this is what you're going to get. You understand it now. You know what to expect. So we appreciate you guys listening. Hope you enjoyed the show quite a bit. So follow us on Twitter. Follow us on PSN. Follow us on Facebook and on YouTube. And subscribe to us. And if you want the website, it's TarynTheHype.com. You can find us /TarynTheHype anywhere else, or just search YouTube for Taryn the Hype and you'll find it. More reviews are coming soon. We look forward to talking to you guys. And thank you again.